Well, happy Tuesday morning, everyone, and welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. And by popular demand, I am addressing the 23 arguments offered by David Hester in our recently finished formal public debate at the Preterist Pilgrim Weekend, July 14th through 16th here in Ardmore, Oklahoma. By the way, you can watch that debate in its entirety on my website, eschatology.org or bibleprophecy.com. Right there at the very top, it says raw footage of PPW 2016, and it's all there. And yes, we will be having DVDs available of that debate just as soon as I can complete the rendering of that. Pardon me. I'm waiting on a little bit of a technical assistance on that, but I am making progress. Okay. In the previous number one video, I addressed David's argument that if there's any ongoing fulfillment of a prophecy, ongoing effect of a prophecy, then all prophecy wasn't fulfilled. Well, his point number two was, if it's the case that any New Testament prophetic passage applies today, then it must be true that all prophecy was not fulfilled in AD 70. His second premise was 2 Corinthians 5, 10, and 11 does apply today. Therefore, all prophecy was not fulfilled in AD 70. Now, once again, let me point out to you, ladies and gentlemen, and again, please go back and watch the debate. It is incredible to me, and I want to be as kind as possible here. I want you to see how incredibly presuppositional David's argument was. Let me ask you again. Did David Hester go to 2 Corinthians chapter 5, 10, and 11, where it says, we must all appear before the judgment seat of God? Did he go to that text and demonstrate why and how it must be true that that text is not fulfilled today? Now, in my response to David Hester, I pointed out that Jesus predicted Matthew 16, 27 and 28, the Son of Man will come in the glory of the Father with his angels and shall reward every man according to his works. Well, here's the judgment. Here is the judgment of 2 Corinthians chapter 5. And I pointed out that the Greek term, and by the way, I have a whole lot more to say about this as we continue our examination of David's 23 arguments. But the little Greek term, amin lego humin, at the beginning of Matthew 16, 28, grammatically ties verse 27 with verse 28. That means the judgment of verse 27 occurred before all of those people standing there died. Now, David Hester tried really desperately to avoid the force of that argument, and again, I'll have more to say about that. But watch this. The judgment of 2 Corinthians chapter 5 is the judgment of the living and the dead. Of 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 5. Christ was ready to judge the living and the dead. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 5. Not only that, I pointed out that 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 17, Peter said, the appointed time for the judgment has come. And he uses what is known as the anaphoric article. Now, folks, I made an extensive argument on that. And do you know what David Hester said? David Hester said, just because, catch the power of this, just because 1 Peter chapter 4 refers to AD 70 does not mean that 2 Timothy chapter 4 verse 1, Paul's prediction of the judgment of the living and the dead, applied to AD 70. Really? Well, I challenged David Hester to show us how many judgments of the living and the dead there are in the New Testament. What was David Hester's response? Not one single syllable. Ask yourself the question, ladies and gentlemen. How many judgments of the living and of the dead are predicted in the New Testament? And so it's absolutely incredible for David Hester to stand up and say, without a word of exegesis, not a single syllable of exegesis. Just simply to say, well, Paul said in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, we must all stand before the judgment bar of God. And to ignore every single New Testament text that posited the judgment of the living and the dead, the judgment of all men, at the impending coming of the Lord. For instance, where James said, be patient, therefore, brethren, until the coming of the Lord. The coming of the Lord has drawn near. The judge is standing right at the door. David Hester's response, total, abject silence. So you see, ladies and gentlemen, his, quote, argument number 2, that if it is the case that any New Testament prophetic text is not fulfilled, then AD 70 doctrine is false. It is the case that a New Testament prophetic text is still future, therefore AD Don Preston is false. Ladies and gentlemen, that is an absolutely presuppositional, unsupported argument that completely ignores the total New Testament testimony that the judgment was near in the first century. It just shows you the weakness of David Hester's position when he does not have the ability to deal with the time text, and boy, I'll share more with that with you later. He does not have the ability to candidly and honestly deal with the time text. All he can do is to say, well, 2 Corinthians chapter 5 is fulfilled, therefore Preston's wrong, without giving you one single word of exegesis. I say this kindly, I say this respectfully, that if you are a follower of David Hester and his eschatology, shouldn't that bother you? Should it not be disturbing that all he did was read the text and say, there, that proves my case? No, no, no. Simply reading a text does not prove your case at all. Exegesis proves the points, and he offered not one syllable. Well, that's point number 2. We've got point number 3 coming up on the flip side. So we'll see you there.